Hello everyone, this is Brooke, analyst from TID Research, and today I would like to talk about an interesting topic. It's called LP Hedging. Basically, when you provide LP, you need to be worried about the impermanent loss. If the impermanent loss is larger than your trading fee income and your reward or incentive income, then your whole LP position, the P&L will be negative. The idea about LP is that on top of your LP position, you can use either additional mechanism help you to hedge away the impermanent loss. Therefore, you only need to be worried about the trading fee and also cost the instrument. And therefore, the return of your whole LP position will be more certain and predictable. So that's the whole idea about LP hedging. And the reason why LP hedging is relevant to the whole DeFi market is that right now, the swap experience is still pretty poor, much less than ideal. For example, if you're buying stocks, FX, or your lunch, company to pay 32 basis point of pricing and slippage plus the gas for each of every transaction. However, this is still the norm on chain. Even for the stablecoin swap, it is actually very common for you to pay close to 1% of the cost just to cover the price impact, slippage, and the gas. And the fundamental reason why that is the case is that the liquidity is just not deep enough on chain. And right now, for most of the transactions are still routed through the automatic market maker pools and all these automatic market maker pools are permissionless. And so for liquidity provider in this pool, they will need to worry about the impermanent loss. Or in order to enhance the liquidity, attract more liquidity provider, like biggest stacks like Uniswap, Curve, and PancakeSwap, they are still using the external reward or the emission from the gauge to keep the liquidity provider to stay in the pools. For example, like in this case, for the RLUSD USDC, which is a very popular pairs, right now the RLUSD repo still need to incentivize the pair so as to maintain the TVO. And then on top of that, for a less popular pair, for example, like the BOW USDC, in addition to the BOW reward from a liquidity team, protocol liquidity, they also need to tap into the CRV reward, which is the CRV emission from the Curve treasury managed by the gauge. So far, both DEX and the protocol, they still need to rely on the reward to maintain the liquidity. And that is because that the impermanent loss quite often is larger than the base APY, which is the income for the liquidity provider from the trading fee. So they need to consider the provider so as to maintain the liquidity. And as you can imagine, this approach is not sustainable and is also not scalable, because right now the whole DeFi market are all pretty hyped about the Genius Act. We believe that there's going to be more stablecoin supply, and the stablecoin supply is indeed increasing. However, the next goal for the stablecoin adoption is to make stablecoin usable for financial institution and also for corporates. However, if a financial institution or corporate, whenever they perform a swap, they realize they need to pay 20 basis point just to cover the price impact and the gas, I don't think it's going to be acceptable, and it means that it's not really going to be scalable. So right now, you probably think we can just tell like Curve or PancakeSwap or Uniswap to increase their emission rate. However, the TVO of the stablecoin supply is increasing faster than the TVO of this protocol. It means that the value of this token, if they really increase the emission rate, will be further diluted to the point that this emission for each of this pool will become no longer attractive. And therefore, the impermanent loss will still be a prominent issue when the stablecoin market is much larger than where it is right now. If you think about it, using the incentive or using the third-party reward to attract TVO in this liquidity pool, it's not really scalable, and then it's also not really sustainable, because one day the treasury is going to be used up, or the emission rate going to drop level, making this reward no longer attractive. That's the reason why LP hedging is an important idea, because it's going to, even though we're not sure whether it's going to work, but at least the idea sounds like it's going to fix the issue of the impermanent loss fundamentally. And there are several players out there that are trying to tackle this problem. So today we're going to look at the two players who've been rolling out the update recently. First of all, it's the yield basis, and then the second one is the GammaSwap. And they're approaching this issue of the impermanent loss for LP very differently. So first, let's look at how yield basis tackle the issue. So when you deposit through yield basis, for example, in this case, into the BTC CRV USD LP, you will deposit your BTC. The yield basis will help you to use your BTC to supply liquidity and to build a BTC CRV USD LP. And then with that LP token, they're going to borrow on your behalf using this LP token as collateral for CRV USD. And they are going to build 2 times leverage LP positions. And the reason why they're doing that is because they believe in this way, your overall position will remain delta neutral in the BTC terms. So you deposit BTC, and then you'll basically help you to build LP, borrow CRUSD, and then build leverage LP. And then all in all, the reason why they're doing this, they want to keep your delta for the overall position still at 1 against BTC. So delta neutral in the BTC terms. And the reason why they're doing it is that we need to first think about where the impermanent loss is coming from. So say that if you supply the liquidity when the BTC is like 100K, and then overall your position, let's assume the pool ratio is 50-50, your whole position will be worth like 200K, because remember, so that's your starting LP position. And the reason why LP can lose money from the impermanent loss is that whenever the price of the online moves, for example, in this case BTC, when it goes up, people will come in to buy BTC from you. So for example, you start with 50% of BTC in the pool and 50% of a CRV USD in the pool. And then when the price of BTC goes up, people will come and then buy BTC from you. So it means that you're actually selling when the price is going up. And on the other hand, when the price is going down, people will sell BTC into the pool against you. So that's actually saying that when the BTC price is dropping, you are buying more and more BTC. So when the price is going up, the BTC in the pool will increase. So the pool ratio of BTC will be starting from 50%, then 60%, 70%, and 80%. And if the BTC price is going down, so it's going to be like 50%, 40%, and 3%. So it means that no matter how the price moves, as long as the price moves, you'll be losing money against just holding one BTC. So that's the source of the impermanent loss. And because it's basically saying that you might as well just hold one BTC instead of providing the LP. Because holding one BTC will have earned more than supplying BTC into the liquidity pool. So that is the reason why there's an impermanent loss. So you can see here is a demonstration. So this is the scenario where you supply liquidity with 100K, and then this is the AMM pool comparing to just one BTC plus 100K of CRV USD. So you can see when you're starting with when the BTC is 100K. So when the BTC price goes up by 50%, if you just hold in the BTC and 100K, your position will be like 250K. However, if you are providing LP, your position will be less than just holding it in 100K. So this is the impermanent loss. And then if the price goes by 50%, your position in it will still be lower than just holding one and 100K. So that is how the impermanent loss looks like. And now we understand how the impermanent loss is coming from. We can start to think about how the yield basis design can help us to solve the issue of the impermanent loss. So the whole point about the yield based design is that once they build a leverage for you, they will maintain the 50% of debt to value ratio no matter how the price moves. So let's assume, for example, you start when a BTC is 100K and supply liquidity through yield basis, your position value will be like 200K. And let's say if the price drops, it means that your LP value drops. And it means that your debt to value ratio will increase. Because the yield basis job is to keep your debt to value ratio at 50%. So it means that they'll need to deleverage for you. And the process of deleveraging will be they will withdraw some of the collateral, which is the LP, and then sell it back to CRVUSD and then pay off the debt for you. This happens when the BTC goes down. So if you think about it, as a liquidity provider, you are actually buying more BTC because people will be selling BTC into the pool against you. However, if you supply liquidity on yield basis, when the BTC price drop, your LP value falls, and therefore yield basis need to rebalance for you to maintain the debt to value ratio back to 50%. So it means that they are actually unwinding the collateral to selling more BTC. So these two actually offset one another. When the price drop, you're actually not buying or selling. So it means that your position will basically works like just holding the BTC and the CRVUSD instead of providing liquidity. And if the price goes up as a liquidity provider, people will buy BTC from you. So it means that you'll be selling BTC to others. However, if you supply liquidity through yield basis, if the BTC price goes up, your LP value in the dollar terms will goes up as well. And therefore the debt to value ratio will drop below 50%. And then it means that the yield basis will need to borrow more on your behalf. They will use the collateral to borrow more CRUSD, and then they will supply liquidity for you, trying to bring your debt to value ratio back to 50%. And when they supply liquidity, they're essentially buying the BTC. And therefore, when the price goes up as a liquidity provider, you have BTC, but the yield basis will buy in BTC on your behalf. And therefore, you take a look at the table here, you can see that the price, no matter how the price moves, if you supply through yield basis, your position value will basically the same as just holding one BTC and 100K, even though you're providing liquidity. On top of that, you'll still be earning the fee. So that is how yield basis help you to solve impermanent loss. So if you're supplying through yield basis, the question you need to be worried about is that if the trading fee high enough to cover the borrowing cost of the CRV USD. So it's essentially simplifying the question and then moving the impermanent loss of the question here. So you need to worry about the trading fee and also the borrowing cost. So that's for yield basis. And for GammaSwap, this is another player out there trying to solve the issue of the impermanent loss. And the approach of GammaSwap is through the adoption of the perpetual option. So what is perpetual option? Perpetual option is essentially a borrow LP position. We just mentioned that when you're holding LP, no matter how the price moves, you are always paying for the impermanent loss. So it also means that if I borrow LP from someone else, no matter how the price moves, I'm always gaining in terms of the TVO. The whole concept is that they're trying to tell people to supply LP and then let people borrow LP on the protocol. So you can see that when people borrow LP from someone else, they are basically holding the straddle option. So the P&L chart will look like this. So it also means that if I'm supplying LP and then I'm also borrowing the BTC, ETC, for example, I'm supplying LP for ETH USDC pair, and it means that I can borrow the ETH and the USDC from someone else and then trying to replicate the basket of asset that's the same as the LP position. And when the price goes up, the basket will help me to buy ETH using the USDC in that basket. And when the price goes down, it help me to sell the ETH in the basket and therefore increase the portion of the USDC. So it means that if I'm supplying LP together with basket of the asset, just like yield basis, the selling buying when the price moves will be offset. It means that there are going to be no impermanent loss. For GammaSwap, they're dealing with the impermanent loss is that you supply LP and then they'll use your LP as collateral, help you to build a straddle position. So you can see that as an LP, when the price moves, you're losing money. However, because you're holding the straddle and because the asset ratio of your straddle is working exactly opposite how your LP changes, your buying and selling will be offset, and therefore you don't have to worry about any loss. In essence, it's still very similar to how yield basis offset your impermanent loss, but they're doing it slightly differently. And GammaSwap, recently they rolled out this product called the G, it's called Swap E. And basically you put together a LP position. So if you look at the strategy breakdown here, it's actually LP together with the long call option. And the reason why it's long call option is because right now the price is higher than where the LP is first built. In addition, instead of buying the whole straddle, they just need to buy the call to be more cost efficient. When the price goes down below the point where they first started the LP, they can just unwind the call option and build a put option instead. That is the whole point about how the GammaSwap is dealing with the impermanent loss and make the LP position more predictable and also more attractive. So you can see like right here, APY, for this APY, you only need to worry about the LP fee minus the borrowing cost of the ETH and the USDC required to put together a basket, to put together perp options here. And the APY is actually more attractive than simply supplying LP to the liquidity pair on base. And that is how to deal with the problem. In this video, we'll talk about why LP hedging is an interesting idea and why the DeFi market needs it, and then how yield basis and the GammaSwap is trying to approach the issue here.